Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. Thanks to everyone that subscribed to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to click on the red button below to subscribe. Thank you. In this video, I'll be showing you how to draft a handkerchief shirt dress with back yoke. I used the biggest part of the body to cut out the pattern, which is the hips. Hip divided by 4 plus 2 inches for seam allowance, and I added extra 15 inches for the flare. So this is the front and the back. From the center front, I took 1.5 inches on a fold. That is where my measurement will start, and I divided it into 2, which gave me 0.75. So I draw a straight line from that point to divide it. That is 0.75 on both sides. So my measurement will be starting from that line. The front pattern is 40 inches for the length, and the back is 43 inches. I made the back longer than the front. I'll be explaining that later on. So this is the back, and from the center back I took 1 inch because it's going to have a box split on this part. So I took 1 inch here for the box split, and I'm taking 6 inches down for my back yoke. So I'll just go ahead and measure the 6 inches here, then I'll take a straight line, then I'll cut it out. So I'll be using 1/2 inch to join it back here like this. Then I'll use the marking tape to join it, but I'll place it from this 1 inch. That is the yoke. The 6 inches I just cut out will start from this 1 inch here. Now I'll be using the masking tape to tape it back here. After doing that, I'll place the front on from this 3/4 inch. I'll make sure it's on this 1 inch line here. I'll make sure it's aligning like this, and I'll pin it up so that it doesn't shift while I take my measurement. Now I'll start taking my measurement from this line. My measurement for the neck width is 2.5 and the depth is 2.5. You can either use 2 or 2.5, so I'll connect it like this. Now I'll be taking the shoulder measurement, and for this the shoulder it's 7.5. I'm adding 1 inch for allowance. That is 1/2 inch for ease and 1/2 inch for seam allowance, and I'll come down by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope. So I'll connect it to the neckline. Now from this 1.5 inch, I'll take the chest line. The chest line is 8 inches. I'll just go ahead and connect the line horizontally. Then I'll take the shoulder measurement on the chest line here, and I'll take a straight line. Now I'll be taking the midpoint of this line for my armhole here, and I'll come in by 0.75. Then I'll take a straight line to meet this point. Before I connect it, I'll get my bust round measurement, and for this the bust round is 38 divided by 4 will give us 9.5. I added 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. Now I'll go ahead and connect the armhole like this. Now after getting this, the next thing I'll be taking is the shoulder to waist measurement. For this, the shoulder to waist is 17 inches. I'll just go ahead and draw the line. Now I'll take the waist circumference. So the waist round is 31 divided by 4. I'll add 2 inches, 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. So normally I'm supposed to draft the flare I need, but for the purpose of those that will want to draft a normal shirt, you need your shoulder to hip, and for this the shoulder to hip is 26 inches. Then you get I'll connect this to meet the waistline here. So I won't be using the shoulder to hip. Like I said, for the purpose of this tutorial, if you want to draft a normal shirt, you get your hip circumference plus 2 inches for seam allowance. Then you connect it to meet this point, and what you have on your hip, you take it on the full length, and you just take a straight line and connect it and cut it out. But because I'm making a flare dress from this waist point, I'll take it to the 15 inches I left extra. the extra 15 inches I left for my flare, I'll connect it to meet it like this. So after getting this, now I'll be forming the handkerchief shape. What I'll do is from the full length, I'll go up by 8 inches, not on the back full length, but for the front, from the front full length, I'll go up by 8 inches here. Then I'll just take the horizontal line. So you can go up between 5 to 12 inches. It depends on how low you want the style to be. So I'll get the midpoint of this line. I'll get the midpoint, and what I have here, I'll take it to the full length. So I have about 11.5 inches, so I'll take it to the full length, not on the back full length, but the front. So I'll connect this 8 inches line to meet this midpoint I took, like this. Then I'll do the same thing for the other side. From this point, I'll connect it to the midpoint here to form the shape I want. Like I said, you can come up between 5 to 12 inches, but for this I came up by 8 inches. So now I'll be cutting out the shoulder slope line. I'll cut it out like this. Then after doing that, I will pull the front pattern to meet the back pattern. Remember, the back is longer than the front. I'll pull it to meet the back like this. Then I'll make sure it's aligning. So as you can see, the excess I had earlier is now on the front part. So I'll take half an inch on the shoulder line. Then I'll connect this excess here. I'll fold it to meet the half inch I just took on the front line here, and I'll create like a sharp edge like this. Then I'll make sure I get the front neckline to meet that excess to form the back neckline so that it will align. After doing that, as you can see, it's showing on the back pattern. I'll connect it to meet this sharp edge like this. I'll make sure I'm seeing the trace of the sharp edge I just took. Then I'll form the back neckline to meet that line, that trace I am seeing. That is the back edge, the sharp edge line, sorry. Now I'll just connect it like this. As you can see, it's aligning on the front. So like I said, make sure it's on that sharp edge line. So I'm cutting it out, then I'll pin it up. So this is how my shoulder would be when I sew it. So I've already cut out the front neckline, and I've also cut out the excess I have on this part. I've cut it out. Then now I'll be cutting the back armhole. I'll make sure the back armhole is a little bit higher than the front armhole. Remember, the front and the back armhole are not the same. So we are done with our pattern drafting. So this is the effect that it will show you on your dress. So now I'll be cutting it on the pattern, on the fabric. I'll be cutting the pattern on the fabric. The first thing I'll be cutting out is the back yoke. Remember, we taped it. I'll just pull it out and trace it on the fabric. So I'll be cutting out two yoke. So this is the yoke. I cut out 2. Now I'll be cutting out the back pattern. So when I place the yoke on the back dress, I still have my extra 1 inch I'll be using for my box pleats later on. So I've also cut out the front and the back. So this is the back and the yoke, and this is the front. The front, I'm using 2 patterns for the front. So this is the 1.5 inches we left for our button. We'll use it to form our plackets. So this is the sleeve. I already have a video for how to draft the basic sleeve. You can check it on the description box. The full length is 23 inches. I removed 3 inches because I'm going to use it to form a band. So on the sleeve round measurement, I added 3 inches. 1 inch is going to be for joining, and the extra 2 inches is going to be for pleats. I'm going to add a pleat on the sleeve. The sleeve round is 9 inches. 9 inches divided by 2 is 4.5, plus the 2 inches I told you I added for the pleat will give me 6.5. So I'll get the midpoint of this line, the midpoint of the 6.5, and I'll take it here. Then from this point I'll come up by 4 inches. I'll come up by 4 inches to get a slit. It's going to have a slit. That part is going to have like a band or a gullet placket. So I've slashed it here. That's where the band will be. And this other one is the 3 inches I removed on the sleeve. Remember I told you I reduced the full length to form this band. So the band is 3.5 inches and the length is 10 inches. Remember our sleeve round is 9 inches plus 1 inch will give me 10 inches. So I cut out 2 for the 2 sleeves. So when I place it on the sleeve, this is how it's going to be, like this. So it will make up for the 3 inches I removed. Then this part is called a gullet or a placket that will be on the slit. This part, I cut it out. It's going to be like this on the sleeve. So I'll be explaining it later on when I'm sewing it. So the length, remember this slit is 4 inches. So I cut out the band, that is this gullet, by 5.5. Then the width is 2.5. I'm going to use half an inch for joining. So I'll be left with 2 inches. So when I fold it by half an inch, then I'll now refold it equally like this. Then I'll make like a triangle shape on this part. Then I'll place it on the slit, but I'll explain that later. But that's how it will be. So now we'll be joining our dress. We'll be sewing it. So the first thing I'll be doing is to sew this 1 inch I left. I'm going to sew it up to form a box split. So let's do that. Remember, it's on the good side. So this is it. So what I'll do is I'll open it up. I'll make sure it's flat like this. Then I'll iron it. I'll use my pressing iron to iron it flat. Then I'll stitch this part so that it will balance. So I'll iron it up. Now I've gone ahead to iron it. As you can see, it's flat now. This is how it will be on the back. So I'll get the midpoint of this back. Remember we cut out 2 of the yoke. So I'll get the midpoint of the yoke. I've already notched it, and I'll place it on the midpoint of the shirt. That is the back shirt. And I'll place the good side on the good side. Good side of the yoke will be on the good side of the shirt. Then I'll turn it over to place the second yoke. I'll turn it over like this. So I'll place the good side of the yoke on the wrong side of the shirt, that is on the other side. Now the yoke will be, the 2 yoke will be in between the shirt. The shirt will be in the middle and the 2 yoke will be by the sides. So I'll sew it by half an inch. Now I've joined it by half an inch. So when I open it up, this is the good side and the other side is the wrong side of the dress. So now I'll pick one on the good side. I'll pick one of the yoke like this. I'll pick one of the yoke, the one on the good side, and I'll place the front shoulder on the back like this. Remember, I picked one of the yoke, so I'm going to pin it up. So I'll place the other front pattern on the second shoulder here, and I'll also pin it up. So I'll be sewing it by half an inch. Remember, we are not sewing this one yet. So now I'll just go ahead and sew it by half an inch. Remember, the good side of the front is on the good side of the back. So I'm done sewing it. So the next thing I'll do is, there are 2 methods to sew the second yoke. There are 2 methods to go about it. What you do is to push this part you sewed in like this. Then you place this by half an inch here like this. Then you place it on top to cover that other part you stitched. Then you top stitch it like this. That is the first method, but I'll be using the second method by picking this part on the neckline here. Remember this is the second yoke. I'll pick the two neckline and I'll turn it over like this, so they'll face each other. The two good sides will face each other here. Then I'll sew it by 1/2 inch. So I'll do the same for the other side. So I've joined it. So the two yokes are together now. Like I said, I'll do for the other side. I've done the second part of the shoulder. So this is the outcome. So now I'll be sewing the placket. That is the center front placket. So I've added an interfacing on this part. Remember, we folded it by 1.5 inches. So on this other side, on this black pattern, this plain part, I don't want it to be plain. I'm going to replace this part with another band. So I cut out another band that I'll use to replace this part here. So on a fold, when I fold this band, it will look like this. When I sew it to look like this. So this part, remember, it's on a fold by 1.5, but when you open it up, it's 3 inches. So what I'll do is this band is 3 inches. I cut it out by 3 inches. What I'll do is, remember, this part is 3 inches too, so I'm going to cut out 2.5 inches and use 1/2 inch to join it. So I'm going to cut 2.5 inches, but it's not compulsory. If you want it plain, you can just fold it like this and sew it. It's not compulsory, it's just the design I want. So I'm going to cut out 2.5 inches and replace it with the band. So this is it. So the good side of the band will be on the wrong side of the shirt. So I'll just pin it up like this. So when you fold it by 1/2 inch like this, then you refold it like this. So it will be like this when you sew it up. So remember, the good side of the band is on the wrong side of the shirt. I stitched it by 1/2 inch. I'll take it to the table. I've gone ahead to iron it with my pressing iron. I've ironed it. So I'll now turn it over like this. Then I'll top stitch it. I'll top stitch this part like this till I get to the end. So this is the outcome. So the next thing I'll do is to top stitch the other side, the other edge of the shirt or of the band. So this is the outcome of the top stitch. So on the second part, remember, we've already folded it by 1.5. I folded it and ironed it to get 3/4 inches. So I'll sew it to the end. I'll also top stitch this edge by 1/4 inch. So here we go. This is the outcome. So this part will be on top of this part like this. So the next thing I'll be doing is to measure the neck round of this shirt so that I can draft the collar. So from this point, I'll start taking the measurements all round to the end of the neckline. So I have 16.5. So I'll be adding 1/2 inch extra. That will be 17 inches to cut the collar. So I already have a video on how to draft the collar. I'll be placing the link on the description box. So this is the collar. I'll fold it into 2 and I'll get the midpoint. So I'll just mark it here. This is the midpoint. Now this is the back and this is the front. So I ironed the front part by 1/2 inch. That is what I'll be using to top stitch it. That's the front side. Then the back side is what I'll be using to join the shirt. So I'll make sure I also get the midpoint of the shirt. I'll fold it into two and get the midpoint. So I'll place the back collar on the back shirt like this. Then I'll pin it up. So I'll make sure it's aligning. Remember, I added extra half an inch for joining. So I'll place it from this point, from the edge of this band. I'll make sure it's, remember, we are not using this other part. We are only joining it with one of the collar like this. So I'll make sure it's on this edge and I'll pin it up. Then I'll sew it by 1/4 inch. So after doing that, I'll tuck this in and I'll use the second one I ironed and top stitch it like this. So let's do that. So this is the outcome of our collar. So when you fold it, this is what we have. Now I've gone ahead to iron the gauntlet I'll be fixing on the sleeve. So this is the sleeve. This is the slit. So I'll fold these smaller parts. I'll double fold it by 1/4 inch, these smaller parts here. I will double fold it to the wrong side. Then I'll sew it. I'll sew it up. Remember, I'm sewing the smaller part of the sleeve by 1/4 inch. Now after doing that, I'll be fixing the gauntlet on the bigger side of the slit. I've gone ahead to iron it. Remember, I explained how you're going to iron it. So on this 1/2 inch I folded, I'm going to, the good side of the placket will be on the wrong side of the sleeve. So I'm going to notch this slitted part. I'm going to form like a triangle shape so that I can easily turn it when I sew it up. So I made like a triangle shape on the slit. So I'll place the good side of the placket on the wrong side of the sleeve. So I'll be sewing it by 1/4 inch. I'll stop the stitch where the slit stops and I'll turn it over to the good side. Like this. So I'll top stitch it. So remember, we formed like a triangle shape on this part. So I'll make sure I stitch it carefully so that I'll get that shape. So I'll gradually stitch it up. After doing that, I'll make sure the smaller side of the slit is joining the placket while I sew it up. Then I'll sew it to meet, I'll sew it by 1.5 inches. Remember, the length of the placket is 5.5 inches. And the slit is 4 inches, so I'll cross it over where the 4 inches stops. So this is the outcome. This is what we have. Now I'll be doing the same thing for the second sleeve. So I'll fix this on the slit. So for the band, that is the cuff band. It's 6.5 inches on a fold is 3.25. So I'll be sewing this part by 1/2 inch to the end like this. So after doing that, I'll top stitch it to the end. So I've gone ahead to top stitch it. Now I'll be placing it on the sleeve. So before then, I'll sew it by 1 inch to the full length of the sleeve. Now I'll measure the round of the sleeve. And I'll remember we have 2 inches extra. Remember I told you I left 2 inches extra for pleat. So to get my pleat, I will, from this point, I'll take 2 inches from the beginning here and mark it. So So that's where my pleat will start. So I'll pleat it with the 2 inches excess I have. Now I'll pin it up and I'll measure it and make sure I have 9 inches for the sleeve round. After that, I'll be placing the band, that is the cuff band, on it. I ironed one part of the band by 1/2 inch. That is what I'll use to top stitch it. So from the beginning, I'll pick one of the bands and I'll make sure it's aligning on from the beginning, and I'll sew it all around. So after doing that, I'll tuck this part in like this part I sewed earlier here, then I'll top stitch it. I'll make sure I top stitch it very close to the sleeve, at least by less than 1/4 inch or 1/4 inch. So this is the outcome. This is what it looks like after sewing. So when this is where the button will be, like this. So I'll be doing the same for the second sleeve. So we have our 2 sleeves now. So the next thing I'll be doing is to join the shirts by 1 inch. I'm joining the front and the back together by 1 inch on both sides. So I'll do that now. So here we go. This is what it looks like after joining it. So the shirt is almost ready. The next thing I'll do is to fix the sleeve. So on this part that is sewn, I'll place it on the sewn part of the shirt too, like this. I'll make sure it's aligning on this point and I'll tuck it in. So I'll pin it up. So what I'll do is to sew it all around. I'll make sure it's aligning and I'll sew it all around. I'll do the same for the other parts. So here it is. I've gone ahead to sew it off camera. So this is the sleeve. Our shirt is almost complete. So what I'll be doing next is to sew the hem. That's the full length. So I'll be folding it by, I'll fold it by 1/2 inch and I'll refold it by 1 inch. That's, I'm double folding it. So from this point, I'll just pin it up like this. So this is how it will look like when you sew it. So from this point, I'll refold this part. Remember, it's like a square shape. So I'll refold this part by 1/2 inch and refold it again by 1 inch. So I'll also pin this part up. I'll do the same till I get to the end of the full length. So by now I'll sew it like this by very close to the edge. I'll do that off camera and show you. So here's the sleeve. I've gone ahead to iron it. I've stitched it and I've ironed it also. So this is the final look of the shirt. So the next thing I'll be doing is to fix the button. So I'll make sure this part is on top of the other side. So this part is going to be where my first button will be. That is on this collar stand. Then I'll take 3 inches down here. So the buttonhole will be 1/2 inch here. So the next one will start from that 1/2 inch. From this point, I'll come down again by 3 inches here. So I'll take 1/2 inch down where the hole will start. That's the buttonhole. Then after getting this 1/2 inch, I'll make sure it's on the middle. That is, the buttonhole is on the middle of the band of the placket. Then I'll come down again by 3 inches here. Then I'll take 1/2 inch for the buttonhole like this. So this is where this part here will be where the buttonhole will be. I'll continue like this till I get to the full length. So on this other part of the placket, I'll be fixing the button by 3 inches. I'll give 3 inches gap till I get to the end. So here is the full dress on the mannequin. I've gone ahead to fix the buttons and the buttonhole. So this is the collar, this is the full length of the dress. So this is the box pleat I made on the back. So this is the sleeve, this is the gauntlet, and this is the cuff band. I hope the tutorial was helpful. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you.